most major car brands out there, they always have one supposed entry-level model that often become the cash cow for the whole company. Well, even for premium brands like BMW, they got one model, and those model is this. This is the BMW 2 Series Gran Coupe, and this is the second generation F74 model. So far for the Malaysian market, we'll only get the single 218 Sport. This is not an F Sport model. And the thing about this car is not only it does miss a few cylinders, it's also a front-wheel drive, which is a bit sabbatical for BMW. So in today's video, we're going to answer whether this supposed entry-level model is still a proper BMW or not. Ich bin Mukhlis, welkom bij Caricarz. Alright, at one glance you can see that the second Gen 2 Series Gran Coupe looks more or less similar compared to the previous gen. But mind you, there are some extensive updates to make this car look a bit different. I wouldn't say nicer, I say a bit different compared to the first gen model. Okay, first thing first, it still retains the sporty fastback coupe 4-door body style as we know. But at front here, you can see some changes. For starters, you can see the hood is a bit bulgier compared to the previous one. That's giving the car a bit more of this weird look, especially from the straight front. But one thing I like about this car is actually the headlight design. It's come with the sharp headlights, LED of course with dual DRS signature, same we've seen in other BMW models. And up front you get this new wider version of BMW's kidney grille, and as you can see, the insert design is quite similar to one we saw in the new BMW X3. But of course, like I said earlier, this is not an M Sport model, this is a Sport. But regardless of that, I would say the 2 Series still look quite sporty, don't you think? Alright, when it comes to dimension, the new 2 Series Gran Coupe is still more or less the same size as before, where it measures about 4.5 meters in length. That's putting on par with other entry-level German sedans like the Mercedes A-Class and the Audi A3. Okay, like I said just now, side profile comes with this signature sporty side profile design, and given that this is a coupe, you can see it's got frameless doors, because not on this is a very exclusive thing for the 2 Series Gran Coupe. And other than that, of course, at the back here you can see it still retains this signature Hofmeister King at the rear pillar. This is a very signature look in many other BMW saloons. And rolling stock, it comes with this 18-inch wide spoke alloy wheel shot in this Goodyear Eagle F1 tire. Even from the tires you can see that this is rather a sporty sedan, not your conventional old people sedan, if you know what I mean. Alright, at the rear you can see that the sporty roofline continues to the back, where it gets a bit of a lifted on the deck here, but there are no spoiler here because like I said just now, this is not an M Sport model. Even the rear bumper design is also a bit simplistic, but I kind of like it. It looks a bit tamer because you don't have any exposed tailpipes here. But one thing I really like about this car is actually the tail light design, because I think it looks very stunning, very nice compared to the slim LED units used on the previous model. And at the back here you also notice this thing. It says 218, not 218i, because for the second gen model, they've dropped the I. This is part of BMW's new ever-changing naming convention, meaning that maybe there's going to be an EV version in the future. We'll never know. Alright, on board the new 218 Gran Coupe Sport, you can see the BMW DNA is still also retained inside the supposed cabin of the entry-level car, where you can see it gets its very same driver ergonomic setup with decent amount of tech amenities. Okay, we'll start with the screen because you still get the same BMW curved display with a 10.7-inch infotainment powered by BMW OS 9 with wireless Android Auto and Apple CarPlay, and there's a smaller 10.25-inch digital meter cluster. But of course, this being an entry-level model, you don't get any head-up display. Alright, again I said this is not an M Sport model, so you don't get M Sport bits, but I would say inside it still feels quite sporty because you get this very thick grip steering wheel with no pedal shifters, whatever. But the seats, I really like the front seat because this is powered sporty front seat with memory function for the driver, and it's wrapped in this very nice veganza perforated vegan leather upholstery. Okay, if you notice, the center console on this car is not as high or tall as many other BMW models, but you still get things like this switch style gear shifters, wireless charging pad, 2 USB charging ports. But if you notice, you don't get the iDrive dial control for the infotainment like other BMW models out there, but you also get this new hidden AC vent that looks quite sleek and giving the car a bit more of a modern vibe. Okay, when it comes to materials, you also get some silver, these aluminum trims, but most of the cars on the lower part is made of plastic, but doesn't feel as cheap as any other plastic bits we saw on other German cars, certainly. And you also get lots of soft touch materials even on the armrest, on the front dash, on the side door cuts and everything. It's still been wrapped in this soft touch material. And if you also didn't notice, this car doesn't have any panoramic sunroof, but at least you still got some ambient lights, and the default standard no branded sound system still sounds quite good. Let's have a try. And as expected, life at the back seat of the new 218 Gran Coupe Sport is definitely not the spacious one, because at the end of the day, this is a rather sporty fastback coupe. So okay, in terms of legroom, it's a bit okay because you can see the front seat has been adjusted to my driver position. I'm 175 cm tall. I say got some space for legroom, but headroom is a bit limited because of the sporty roof line. So that's a bit of a compromise for those who have tall passengers. This might not be the most ideal car for you to drive in, but at least at the center you get this dedicated aircon vents with 2 USB charging ports. And despite its front wheel drive setup, it comes with a rather tall center tunnel hump, because other top line variants of this car, it does come with the X-Drive all-wheel drive system. So there's that. But other than that, the seat position is a bit too upright for me, because like I said again, this is not exactly the most spacious car in the world. So that's a bit of a compromise. But of course, you still get this built-in armrest down here, which is a bit okay. But surprisingly, despite its sporty appearance, boot space for this car is still quite practical. You got 430 liters of space as standard, which is bigger compared to the A-Class and the A3. You also get dedicated lower compartment as well. But of course, there are no spare wheel here. And if you need an extra space, you can just still fold down the rear seats here to expand it furthermore. So yeah, back space, not so ideal. Boot space, quite practical. Right, in terms of underpinning, the second Gen 2 Series Gran Coupe still underpin the same front-wheel drive setup platform as before, but BMW said they have been reinforced and improved for better rigidity and whatnot. Okay, when it comes to engine, it retains the same engine as before as well. For the 218, it now is powered by a 1.5-litre 3-cylinder turbocharged V30 engine. This is the same engine used in Mini Cooper as well. This engine itself outputs about 156 PS and 230 Newton meters of torque. Okay, now the controversial part, yes, this car is a front-wheel drive. It's an FWD setup with a 7-speed DCT automatic gearbox. At least you got a DCT. And yes, again, I said this is a front-wheel drive BMW. 0 to 100 takes about 8.6 seconds, which is a bit slower compared to the A200 A-Class. But top speed is capped at 230 kilometers per hour. And again, this is not an M Sport model, so you don't even get other M Sport mechanical bits, like there are no adaptive M suspension, no M Sport brakes and whatsoever. So again, I'd say, yes, this is a 3-cylinder front-wheel drive BMW. So how does it really drive? Alright folks, so now we're behind the wheel of the new BMW 218 Gran Coupe Sport, and of course the first thing you really notice is the driving position and the feel. It really feels like BMW, but once you start the engine and hit the pedal, well, no surprise, it drives like a BMW. Okay, the thing about the 1.5-litre 3-cylinder turbo is that it's got plenty of low end and mid range torque and power, so power delivery feels quite immediate despite its very humble power output, which is a good thing to see. And one impressive thing about the turbocharged 3-cylinders also is not as noisy. I mean, you still get the 3-cylinder grunt here and then, but it's not too noisy, especially during idle, like any other popular 3-cylinder turbocharged engine from a certain car brand that we're not going to mention. But of course, this being a BMW, the car felt at home and very lively around tight corners and sharp bends and fast corners and not. Because despite missing the M Sport suspension brakes and everything, it still feels very engaging. It sticks to the road, it's very sure-footed, especially around corners. So much so that you just want to whack any corners you can think of with this car. Because again, the driving position, the low center of gravity of this car also helps to deliver that very engaging and sporty driver experience. Okay, another good thing about this car is actually the brakes, because again, no M Sport parts here, but the brakes just feel quite beefy and punchy, because of course, it's not a big or a powerful car to begin with, so stopping power is quite ample on this car. But one impressive thing about this car is actually the NVH level, because despite having this frameless window, the wind suppression level on this car is quite good. But the not good thing is actually the tire noise, because again, it uses its Goodyear Eagle F1, which is a bit, it comes with a bit like a medium compound, so it's a bit of softer tire, more performance bias, so it can get quite noisy depending, very much depending on the surface of the road. But other than that, performance of this car is very sticky to the road. And again, like I said, yes, it's still a front-wheel drive, it's still a three-cylinder, but it still has a proper BMW. And more importantly, despite its small size, the car also feels quite stable and solid on highway speed and beyond. Doesn't feel like you're driving a small car, with most of them feels a bit floaty, like almost flew over, but not in this car. So all in all, yes, it might missing a few cylinders compared to your normal 3 Series and whatnot. It's still a front-wheel drive, but doesn't necessarily, it's not a Beamer. Yes, it still drives like a proper BMW. But of course, with small setup of powertrain, you also get a slight benefit when it comes to fuel economy. Because from this car, a full tank is about 80 ringgit, and then I can get about 600 plus kilometer in a relatively easy manner, which is quite good, because if fuel economy is a bit of your concern, then it's good to know that this 3-cylinder turbocharged BMW is quite frugal, at least compared to their 6-cylinder counterparts. But when it comes to safety though, this is where things a bit of a mixed bag, because while you get other functions like lane change assist, blind spot monitor, rear cross traffic alert, you don't get any of the semi-autonomous driving capabilities like adaptive cruise control, lane keep assist and everything. Is not available in this car, which is a bit of a bum, but like I said, you still get things like autonomous emergency braking and whatnot. But of course, passive safety is quite complete. You get all 3-point seat belts, but then again, although you get TPMS and everything, but you only get a simple reverse camera instead of the 360 view camera. So this kind of little things might be a bit of bummer for some, but it is what it is. You just gotta live with it. Alright, so all in all, we learned that despite missing few cylinders and a front-wheel drive setup, the new BMW 218 Gran Coupe Sport still drives like a proper Bavarian. Thus, there's no denying the DNA of the Bavarian has been instilled in this front-wheel drive saloon. And of course, to no one's surprises, an entry-level BMW is still a BMW, and that is reflected in its price tag, because despite being locally assembled, the 218 Gran Coupe Sport here is stacked handsomely at 218,800 ringgit. Yes, above 200,000 ringgit, but still cheaper than any other entry-level German sedans out there. Okay, the thing about the 2 Series Gran Coupe is that, of course, back then, few years back, paying 200 plus for a German car is a bit of a normal thing, but not in today's game, because nowadays we've seen lots of Chinese cars brands coming into our market, offering some of the latest and greatest at a fraction of a cost of a typical European counterpart. So yeah, paying 200 plus for this size of a car is a bit of a stretch, but unless you're really into BMW as a brand, if you're really pursuing that sheer driving pleasure BMWs are known for, then maybe it's a bit of a justified buy for you. But of course, at the end of the day, be it an EV, hydrogen, whatever, the 218 Gran Coupe Sport proves that no matter it's missing few cylinders and a front-wheel drive, this car still drives nice, and it still is a proper Bayerische Motorenwerke machine. So who says front-wheel drive cars is a bad thing to drive? Caricarz.